Good morning, everyone. So it looks like the Charger vomited all its interior trim on the floor, and that's basically what it did. I got everything out yesterday and started to take an inventory as to what is broken, what is dirty, what's needs to be replaced, and everything actually looks pretty good. I mean, most of the pieces that had carpet on them, the carpet's either gone or just has some small pieces on there. But I'll have to order all of that. But I mean, this just goes to show that this is just interior trim. And in 1966, they put a lot of interior trim in cars, compared to cars of today that just may have some, plastic trim that's, covering a seam here or there. I mean, this is just craziness happening here, and trying to keep track of everything. And there are chrome, there are chrome pieces, black pieces, uh, uh, body color pieces. I mean, it's just everywhere. So all of this is going to get restored, and if it can't be restored, then I'll replace it. But I'm hoping to keep most of these original parts. Sun visors are probably going to get replaced because they're pretty bad. But anyway, this is what I'm dealing with today. I wanted to mention the seats. So as you can see, these seats are pretty bad. This particular car had bucket seats in the back because the center console goes from the front all the way to the back. Now these seats could be restored. You could take the upholstery off, you could take the foam out, you can clean up the frames. The problem with that is the upholstery and the foam to replace that. And then of course you have to factor in your labor for cleaning up the frames and painting it. But just getting reproduction upholstery and foam for these seats is more money than getting a complete reproduction seat. And it's not original, obviously, but it's a lot cheaper. So I'm probably going to go that route. I will keep these seats around in case whoever buys this car wants the original seats and wants to do something with them. But as you can see, they're pretty bad. There was lots of animals and creatures living in this car for the 30 some years it was parked in a barn. It did have the original hubcaps there, and I will keep those. It's going to get some of its own much nicer looking wheels. But the car itself, as you can see, lots of mud, wasp nests in there, and there were probably rats and raccoons and lots of things in here. But overall, this is just surface rust. This is not anything that is what I would consider rot or anything with holes. This is just going to get rust converted and painted, and then we'll do some sound deadening on this car. This car is such a cool body style, 1966. Of course, it isn't as famous as the 1968 and 69 Chargers, but this is a really cool body style. Now, the floor on the inside of the car really isn't too bad. Again, it's just surface rust. There's some dirt back there. I'm going to get my pressure washer in here and get all this washed out. But on the driver's side, it's just, surface rust and dirt that has to be cleaned. And all of the wiring is going to come out of the car. The doors are in really good shape. There's no rust at all, no holes, nothing like that. On the passenger side, come around here, there is a little bit of issue on the passenger side floor. So there must have been some water sitting in the carpet, and the carpet may have been moist or something, and it did create some issue right there on the passenger side floor, and then actually right there as well. So what I did was I ordered a floor pan half from Auto Metal Direct, which basically goes from this line here all the way to where you put your feet there. And so I of course aren't going to replace the whole thing. I'm only going to replace the part with the holes, but I will cut out a piece here, and then I'll cut out that piece right there, and we'll get that all welded in and have a new floor. The floor underneath, which be a little too hard to show you now, but the floor underneath is just in such good shape. This car was undercoated, and because it was in Texas, it never saw snow or salt or anything like that, and so underneath the floor is just so perfect. All of this stuff is gonna come out. This is gonna get a 6.4 Gen 3 Hemi, and all of this electronics and, you know, a single pot manual brakes and all that stuff is going to get replaced. This car has 4-wheel drum brakes, which will get converted to discs. And one of the things that I found out about this car, now that I've gotten it in the shop and started to take it apart, I was checking out the VIN number, and there were only 37,000 of these made in 1966, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. Considering for other models of, you know, Camaros or Mustangs or something, there would have been, you know, 300,000 made. So this is a pretty rare situation, especially considering it doesn't have any major issues. So I'm not going to do anything to the exterior. The exterior is the original patina that happened with this car when it was in the barn. It was in a barn. I don't know if you can see it, but the sticker on the windshield, the last date is 1978 that it was registered. And the person I got it from that actually took it out of the barn said that it had actually been in the barn since 1980. So it was in a barn from 1980 to 2020. And I don't know if it was covered or what, but a lot of the original paint, you can see this blue color is the original color, and then a lot of the blue is gone. I don't know exactly how that happens inside a barn, but you know, again, it's got some really cool patina on the outside. The interior is going to get completely redone, so the interior is going to be like new, but we're going to keep the outside with this patina, and then maybe whoever wants to purchase this car wants to paint it or do a vinyl wrap or something, then we could do that at that time. Now, the windshield is cracked, so gonna have to get that out of there. And unfortunately, this chrome trim that goes around the windshield is super difficult to get off. And most of the time when you take it off, it gets destroyed. So I'm gonna have to try and be as careful as I can, because I would like to reuse it, but we'll see what happens. And then you cut the rubber gasket that's around the glass, and then the glass can come out. Another really neat thing about these older Mopars is the dash assembly was completely assembled outside of the car at the factory. So they had jigs where the dash was completely assembled, all the instruments, switches, glove box, the radio, the vents, everything was assembled outside of the car. And then it gets installed in one unit, which is nice now because I can take it out that way. So I'll drop the steering column, and this dash has some screws that go around the front underneath where the glass is, and then there are some bolts on each side, and the whole thing comes out. It's got one kind of bulkhead plug, and you unplug it, and I can put it on a table here and go through it. So as I get working today, I think the first thing I'm going to do is try to get this glass out. All the other glass in this car is perfect. The windows, and especially this back window. Now this back window is, I'm not sure if you can see it, but it curves up on the sides. It might be hard to see, but it actually curves up, which makes this glass kind of a different situation. It's pretty rare, and the last thing you want to do is break it and have to find a replacement. So be very careful working around this back window, but all the other windows are good to go. Thankfully, there are lots of companies that make reproduction windshields, so I'll be able to get that pretty easily. But if anyone has any comments of what you think I should do or not do or what with this car, let me know for sure. I took out the taillight assembly. Now the taillight assembly in this car is pretty different. It's all one piece, and it says Charger on the back. Now this one is missing the R that goes in the center, but the rest of the letters are there. Now it's got some cracks in it. I'm gonna try and find just the lens, because unfortunately, again, because these cars, there weren't very many of them made, to get a original assembly is very, very expensive. I mean, it's almost prohibitive. It's so expensive. But I'm looking for someone that either has just the red plastic lens that I could get and replace and keep the housing and just put on a new gasket and new bulbs and stuff. Or I may just have to ride with this one, because again, it's just so prohibitive to pay the amount of money people are asking. But that's what happens when you're working on a car that's, pretty rare. So now this white color, again, it doesn't look white because it's dirty, but it actually is. In 1966, they had two versions of white. They had one that was just called white and one that was called pearl. So I have to do some investigating with the VIN number and see if I can figure out if this was just the white or if this was the pearl, because some of the pieces, depending on where they were in the car and how much dirt they got on them, some of them look kind of off-white and some of them look like a regular white. So hopefully I can get the VIN. I was told that the Mopar VINs of this age are pretty easy to decipher, whereas the Chevrolet and Ford VINs are a little bit harder. So yeah, so that's it. So looking forward to getting this done and getting this car on the road.